Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Door Bumper Clear. I'm Freddie Kraft, spotter for Bubba Wallace. Dean Thompson this week. One good race, one awful race for us. Thomas, how was your weekend?
It wasn't bad. Car was good. Cody did a good job. Finished top 25. Stayed out everybody's way. Raced some people. It was good.
Carson, Memorial Day weekend. I know you got to go to the racetrack a couple times this week. How was
got
your
to
week?
be a race fan for 2 weekends in a row, so I had a good time. That was good.
Did you go to concert? I saw a picture of you from the concert on
Yeah, I went to
night.
Smash Mouth, but I got to say, kind of
Disappointed?
sucked. 4 songs in, they hadn't played a single one I knew yet. I was like, I'm out of here. So Tim Duggar was all right, though.
Oh, old Duggar. He's still kicking it around. Joining us today, somebody we've been trying to get in here for a little bit. Finally got it worked out to where we can get him in. Larry McReynolds, welcome to Door Bumper Clear.
Oh, excited about being here. I've watched you guys a lot and was very honored when you reached out to me and glad we could connect the dots to be here.
I do have to apologize. I did not make my annual trip to Larry's house on Memorial Day Monday. And usually we come off the lake and end up in Larry's backyard for a little while. And yesterday, some of the guys were over there. I had to really laugh because I think Doug said this on social media, but a year ago we were leaving to go to Brandon's bachelor party. A year ago today.
Yeah.
And then this year I see a picture of Doug and Brandon in the playpen playing with the kids over the house.
Well, there wasn't a lot of movement on the lake yesterday. In fact, you couldn't even see the lake for the fog. So yeah, I cannot believe it's this dreary and cold, and we just came off Memorial Day. I mean, this is crazy right now.
Yeah, for sure. Anyway, getting to it, storied career in NASCAR. Obviously, I regret to tell you, I went back and looked at some of your stats, and the first Cup Series stats I found were from the same year I was born. I hate that.
Had to go there, didn't it?
I mean, damn.
I didn't really want to bring that
I never
up.
worked on a car that ran on the beach, just for the record there.
Oh, man. But, just talk about, how many years in the sport. But, it's just some of the high points of either one of those jobs. Obviously, very successful on the crew chief side. I think 23 career Cup wins. Very successful on the broadcasting side. Talk about some of the high points of each side of that thing.
Well, I tell people all the time, I started 470 races as a Cup Series crew chief. I won 23. That means I lost 447. So sometimes I'm not sure the numbers are as good as they seem. But no, for a guy from Birmingham, Alabama, that barely got a high school diploma, to look back, and a lot of people go through life and they don't really have one fulfilling career. And I'm sitting here now pinching myself going, I've had 2 fulfilling careers. One as a Cup Series crew chief for 17, 18 years, and now 25 years with NASCAR on Fox and doing some stuff for TNT as well. Obviously, wins are so hard to come by. Every win is special. There's only one first win. To get that win at Watkins Glen in 1988 with Ricky Rudd, the 26 car. Obviously, the 2 Daytona 500s, a lot because of the people they were with, to do it with Davey Allison in 1992, to do it with Dale Earnhardt in 1998. And honestly, I would have never believed it would have been my final win as a Cup Series crew chief, to win that final trip over to Japan in 1998 in Motegi with Mike Skinner. I would have never believed that would have been my last win, but it was, and now 25 years into broadcasting.
Talk about that decision. That was, I think, after the 2000 season. Was it a difficult decision, or was it something that you felt like you needed to make a change at that point?
It was the hardest decision I've ever had to make, and I involved my entire family. Linda, my wife, was played a big role in it. Brooke and Brandon, our 2 oldest kids, and we probably toiled on it for over 6 to 8 months. But I think at the end of the day, what finally led me to make the decision to go ahead and try it, one, Fox was only offering me a 2-year deal. And I felt like if I go do it and they don't like me or I don't like them, as we see coaches do a lot, I can always go back. But I just felt like if I didn't do it and try it, I would always look back over my shoulder and go, what if? Because let's face it, there's a very small group of people that are analysts on TV for NASCAR. But I've got to say it's a decision that my whole family made with me, and one I've never looked back over my shoulder.
Speaking of Brandon, the Cup Series winning spotter from the weekend, I'm sure that's got to be a proud moment for you guys.
Well, here's the neatest story about him spotting and winning that Coke 600 as a spotter with Ross Chastain, and I posted it on X and on Instagram. 24 years ago in 1991, we won the All-Star race, Davey Allison, the 28 car, Robert Yates Racing. Brandon was born on Tuesday. We won the Coke 600 on Sunday. And after the race, and we got the car through inspection, I drove to the hospital and picked up Linda and Brandon and brought them home. Spin it ahead 24 years later, he's up there spotting for the winning car in the Coke 600 with Ross Chastain.
It's a wild trajectory. You talk about that decision in 2000. Brandon was also a heck of a race car driver, and that's kind of, I'm assuming he had to be 9 or 10 years old at the time. That's probably, I know he was racing probably Bandoleros or starting getting into it at that point also.
Yeah, you know, Brandon, he was. You know, I always try to take my dad hat off when I talk about any of our kids, but especially Brandon. You know, Tommy was good enough to let him drive some East races for his what was then the K&N East. And Brandon really won in about everything he ever drove in. And I don't have any regrets, but if I feel like I failed at one thing, it was getting him to where he needed to be. But I just could not chase money anymore. I told him at the end of the day, I said, I'm not retired from trying to help you with your racing, but I've retired from chasing money. I physically, mentally just can't do it anymore. The thing I'm the proudest of Brandon, though, he has found a way to still be a part of the sport and still be successful as a spotter and with the Clear 28 agency that manages some drivers.
Yeah, and Tommy, we've harped on it here before. You know, we always hate the narrative of money over talent because that, you know, you see that across our sport, really all levels, whether it's late model racing, the modifieds, you know, of course the top series. I mean, you go back and watch. I saw a video of Brandon the other day passing William Byron for a win at I think it was Iowa.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I remember him winning that race at Talladega. You know, it's just, you know, like you said, he won everywhere he went. He beat a lot of that K&N series back in the day. It was Brandon, it was Corey, it was Bubba, it was Chase, it was Blaney. You know, everybody that's out there running on Sundays now was running against Brandon, and Brandon was outrunning him a lot of the time. So it just sucks to see that, you know, that motto. That's why we harp on it so much. You know, we need to shift this focus back to talent over money somehow.
I mean, it's all about timing, right?
It is.
I mean, it's you know, I'm fighting that right now with Luke. It's a hard and it's exhausting. You're right. To worry about what we have to worry about, right? I feel it's his career and everything and what's going on is more on my shoulders than his right now.
Exactly.
Right? And that's the same thing that you went through. So, yeah, I mean, that's why I'm kind of speeding up. I'm not speeding up the path, but I've been around, I think, and learned a lot through, like, let's just use Brandon. You worked really hard. You spent a lot of money. You found a lot of money to do everything but getting to the top 3 tiered series,
yeah.
Right? So I've looked back and I'm say to myself, you're either good or you're not, right? You're either going to be a good race car driver or you're not. So you better learn quickly and let's get him to the places he needs to get to. But, you know, to your point, it's one of the hardest things of taking that hat off of being a dad and then finding money and then worrying about everything that needs to be, you know, you need to be worrying about. It's exhausting. Well,
and that's why I feel so thankful that people like Steve Turner gave him an opportunity to run an ARCA car. He won Talladega. Tommy John Visconti gave him an opportunity to drive in the East Series. He won Loudon, New Hampshire. Bill McAnally driving that Napa car for 2 years and swept the Iowa races that 1 year. And again, these gentlemen, Tommy included, they did not ask us to bring a check through the door. They just said, look, bring your driver's uniform, bring Brandon through here. If we can come up with anything that can sweeten the pot, great, but that's not what we're looking for. So I'll always be indebted to those gentlemen for giving him an opportunity.
Yep, and like I said, Brandon, for some reason he's dodging me. He will not come on this damn show.
He dodges me too.
I'm trying to work on Tommy. I didn't know if Tommy was going to be able to make it today because we obviously changed our whole schedule around this week for Memorial Day. So I had a really good idea to bring Brandon on. He still wouldn't do it, even with, I was like, Larry's coming. You got him with Larry. But anyway,
he's a very busy man.
Yeah, he is very busy.
I was going to say, what's his excuse?
Yeah, well, I think, I don't know. We don't have the best reputation in the world sometimes, but
we're working on it.
Before we move on, there was one thing that I when I posted the other night that you were coming on, there was a couple, everybody was ask questions, and there was one specific story that I think I need you to tell on here because it came up multiple times. Tow truck driver with Mike Skinner.
Talladega. Yeah, everybody wants to say and reflect, where were you on 9/11? Well, I can tell you exactly where I was. I was sitting in an attorney's office in Birmingham, Alabama, giving a deposition. Had to drive my rental car home because obviously all the flights got shut down. But yeah, Mike was 100% at fault. Mike Skinner. He tried a pass in the grass that went bad on the backstretch at Talladega, and our car only had 4 flat tires, but we needed to be towed in. And there was a lot of people that got involved in that wreck. In fact, they were lined up at the pit box. I said, look, if you want to kick my butt, you're going to have to get in line because there's people in front of you. But anyhow, I watched it on the monitor. The wrecker picked the car up, and the guy that was driving the tow truck, and Mike was still in the car. The tow truck would go and stop, and every time he'd stop, the front of our 31 car would hit the back of the wrecker. And by the time it got back to the garage area, it needed a whole front end on it. And it's like, I am livid. And this little tow truck driver that looked like he was about 4 foot tall, he jumped out of the tow truck. They lowered the car down, and he couldn't reach the hook to unhook it. So what did he do? He jumped up on the ductwork that was still intact and fell down through the ductwork. Larry Mack had enough. I yanked this guy off that back of that, and I tossed him toward his record, and I said, get the hell out of here now. Well, he claimed his back was hurt. Next thing you know, there's a lawsuit. It just went downhill from there.
I didn't even know it got that far.
We got issues with tow truck drivers.
Yeah,
but that was before anger management, so I'm all good now.
Yeah,
I would have said, please, mister, will you get the hell down from there?
Yeah, I missed those classes.
Tommy didn't get that one yet. He had a little tow truck running this year, but it's okay.
Yeah, that's all right.
Happens to the best of us.
Why don't you read this right here? I think it's a pretty good. Like we're gonna move on to what? No. I just want you to read what Andrew wrote here.
Oh, Andrew, what the hell? How was Kansas?
Oh,
we're not in Kansas anymore. We're not in Kansas anymore.
Kansas, that was 3 weeks ago. There's an all-star race in between there.
How was Charlotte?
Yeah, no. How was Charlotte? You guys probably didn't have as much fun in Charlotte as I did. Especially.
I don't know. It was a lot of fun. My race was not a lot of fun, but it looked from the general, like the overall view for me, it seemed like a really, really good race. I know, Tommy, you were up there with me. Larry, I'm not sure you were watching at home or if you were at the track, but it looked to me like a really good race.
It was, and I know if you looked at the race results and you look at William Byron that swept the stages and led 283 laps, you'd go, boy, that must have been a really good race. But it was a good race. The storylines throughout the race, the racing at the end of stage 3 with William Byron, Denny Hamlin, Carson Hocevar, it was off the chart. And just the other storylines that went along with the finish, there was a lot of drivers, aside from Ross Chastain, that stopped the bleeding at Charlotte. A.J. Allmendinger finished 4th. First top 5 for Colic Racing this year. God knows Brad Keselowski finally stopped the bleeding with his first top 10 finishes 5th. And Shane Van Gisbergen, let's face it, outside of COTA, it's been a dismal year. Not even a top 20 finish. He gets a top 20. Michael McDowell gets his first top 10. So at the heels of a lot of top teams and drivers having issues, there was a lot of drivers that stopped the bleeding in the Coke 600.
Yeah, and Tommy, your race, like you mentioned, there was one point in the race. I know we were off. I don't know. Our race was just not
hit the
good.
wall lap 2, right?
Yeah, lap 1,
right?
really. Guy went to the top of 3 and 4, and I don't know. We just kind of ran out of room there. Priest swears he didn't do nothing wrong, but
they never do.
But yeah, we got the fence a little bit. And I don't know if that was our problem. We were just super, super tight all day. Which, if you're back there in the late 20s and early 30s, you're just going to be that much tighter. So it was just it was a struggle for us all day, and then we got caught up in that wreck on the backstretch when Hocevar blew up. But, so at one point, Cody went by us. I mean, like, we always want to talk about Cody a little bit on here just because, like, I know they get a raw end of the deal about, why are they doing this with Cody when they had such a good year. I mean, he had decent speed the other night. He was in the picture.
He did. It was a good day, and we had good meetings about it today. We just talked about the next steps with him, what he's got to do. It's just we got to work really hard to keep giving him a good car, and he's got to work really hard now of learning how to do some things on the track, learning how to set up for passes and doing the things he needs to do. And, Connor Zillage, we were talking yesterday, and he said one word that really sparked really probably an hour meeting today about it. He said, Cody's very predictable. I said, and I knew what he meant, but I wanted Connor. Now, this is a kid that doesn't have any oval track cup experience. He says, well, you after the couple laps, you knew exactly where he was going to run on the track. So you can just run his line and take his air out. You can do whatever you want with him. So we had a good discussion about it, some in-car camera stuff. We looked at a bunch of stuff that he's got to go back and study. So, again, it's a learning process for Cody because, yes, he's got over 100 cup starts, but now he's driving really good stuff now, right? He's driving equal to, good stuff. So it's a learning curve.
Yeah.
It's not easy, man. These guys race hard.
A little bit is a lot.
Yes.
A little bit.
Yes. I mean, we were talking about Shane today in the meeting because he was running back with us all year long. And it's funny, I'm going to talk to Tony at the track house because I went to him at Texas and I said, look, if you put an 88 on a 51, 51 and 88, they look exactly the same from up top. They handle the same, do same. Do you guys do anything different, on the two cars versus that? Do you guys do anything? Or is it Shane? Well, Shane's saying it's him and he's got a lot of work to do and some stuff. But since I've had that conversation, he's picked it up. So now my next question is, okay, what did you find?
What did you do?
I need to get the 51.
What did you find there? Because he's picked up a solid 2-3 a lap during the race. And that's a lot.
That's a lot. I mean, and it's funny because, and we'll talk about this more as you go, but, you get back, we talk about how close this field is now. We were struggling the other night. We're running, I think, 30th, 31st. I didn't even know you could run 30th without wrecking. And I look in front of us and it's Joey Logano and it's, a Trackhouse car. And there's really no more weak links in the Cup Series.
No, I look at that scoring monitor, even had it going the other night during the Coke 600, and you look at the top 20, you might find a 1/10 of a second differential. We see the same thing on pit road, with the pit stops. Everybody just keeps stepping it up, and it's why now a little bit is a lot. I've said for a few years, when we look at stats, we look at wins, top 5s, and top 10s. I honestly feel like we need a column with top 15s because the top 15 is not an easy finish to come by.
Yeah, I say top 20.
Realistically,
I mean, it's hard.
I mean, and the funny thing is, I always get on crew chiefs, like whether it was Booty last year, Charles, not sometimes this year, but they'd be like, all right, well, just tell them those are top 5 lap times. They're running the same lap times as top 5. I'm like, yeah, but unfortunately we're 20th, and so is everybody else in front of us. Yeah. It's like you said, it's within a half a tenth a lot of times of, if you're running a 45, the guy in 4th's running a 40, and you're like, oh, I'm matching him, but unfortunately, so is everybody else in front of you and most of the guys behind you.
You mentioned the word crew chief. Tommy will love this one. You know what my definition of a Cup Series crew chief is?
What's that?
Guy that makes pretty good living, gets to travel all over the country about 38 times a year, but listens to a guy that makes millions tell you how bad everything is.
Exactly.
That's spot on.
Speaking of bad, I do have a small rant that I hope is temporary, so I'm not going to lose my mind completely about it. But what'd you think of the spotter stand this week, Tom?
I went up there. I was surprised. What was
Were you spotting?
No.
He always goes up
I
there.
go up there and observe.
This might be, but explain to me what the exact issue was. Because I saw your tweet, but I didn't quite grasp or
unfortunately,
understand.
So we've had the same spotter stand on the roof at Charlotte since I've been spotting. Really, since I don't even know mid 2000s. Yeah, okay. Probably. So. We didn't know anything was changing. They had a test a month ago, and apparently they did some renovations to some of the stairwells that go up the backside of the grandstands. And then they had to make some changes to the roof. I think there was some with the roof maybe leaking into some of the suites. But we used to have an elevated walkway that would lead out to, a railing that was on the edge of the roof. And the lights there are kind of in a strange place. They're right at the top of the roof. They're not really extended off the roof much. So in years past, the railing being on the edge of the roof was fine because now you were shoulder width with the lights were at your shoulders. They redid the roof this year and they redid the spotter stand and they took away our elevation, which was, not much. It was probably 6-8 inches, but then put us behind the lights.
Gotcha. Okay.
So now you either have to position yourself to be directly behind the lights, so you just don't see what's directly in front of you without a step stool. You can see the rest of the racetrack, which is my spot. I just couldn't see. I basically couldn't see anything without a ladder. I couldn't see the restart zone or the start finish line at all, essentially. But I could see the rest of the racetrack. There's other guys that would move to where they could see in front of them, but then they couldn't see the exit of turn 4 or the entry to turn 1. So it was frustrating because we had some of the guys did a test there, and we had shared the information like this is not going to work for the 600, and we made it work. But ideally, I don't want to be standing on a ladder for 5 hours. Having to spot a race.
8 spotters fall off the stools.
Yeah. And listen,
I was going to say it sounds dangerous a little bit.
They got those little 3-step stools, all of them, and then.
I mean, for me, it was weird. I don't know. I don't spend a lot of time on ladders, believe it or not. I know it's hard to believe looking at me, but you get up there and it's like you get up there and you're just standing there on the ladder and you're fine. Everything's okay. Then you go green and you try to pull your binoculars up and it's like, oh boy, I don't know. Yeah. Like all of a sudden I just got like lightheaded and I think maybe my center of gravity is too high.
Does NASCAR acknowledge there's an issue now because they've got a year to get it rectified?
I think that, so the thing is, so for the Roval, we spot from turn 1 and that tall Ford grandstand, majority of us, I should say. So that shouldn't be an issue. So like you said, we have a year. I think that they just got caught up with not really having the project completely finished like they had hoped. But I did like what we had this week was not acceptable. One of the frustrating part for us is, and we tell NASCAR, we tell the racetracks this all the time, any new facility, any renovation, any spotter is happy to go wherever it is. We talked about it at Phoenix before they redid that place. Where do you want to go? Do you prefer to be here? Do you prefer to be over here? What can we do to make this better? And 3 or 4 guys went out there and did it. This one is 20 minutes from the house, and nobody said anything to anybody about it till we got there. And you're like, oh, what the hell? And how is this going to work? But so that's unfortunate. I'm just praying to God that whoever I don't think it falls on NASCAR. It's probably more the racetrack. I think everybody tried to work together this weekend to rectify it, and we all just ended up on ladders for 5 hours. But it was unfortunate, and hopefully we get it cleaned up by the next trip there.
A lot of guys had to do commercial flights. They left the ladders right on the roof. It was. I don't know. When we got there, I was like, I just want to know, like, how does this happen? You know what I mean? Like, how do we get here and nobody realized half the spotters can't see the roof? Well, I know we can see where you guys are in the pecking order. Well, that's the thing. Right?
Like, I know that we can be prima donnas. I know that we have the reputation of being a little egotistical, and I get it. But we don't need a lot to do the race, but we do need to see the racetrack.
Yeah, I mean, at the very least, it'd probably be helpful if y'all could see. Yeah. Other than that, though.
There was some news this week also. And Byron, talk about going out and backing it up. He signs a 4 or 5 year extension with Hendrick Motorsports, and then goes out and, like you said, leads 283 laps, sweeps the stages.
Won the Xfinity Series race.
Wins the Xfinity Series race. So good news for him. I don't think anybody didn't see that coming. Kyle Busch, we talked about.
You're like Tommy saying Kurt Busch.
Kurt's also in the news this week. We might get to that in a minute. But Kyle Busch signs an extension with RCR. Maybe a small surprise, Larry, but we talked about it on here last week. There was really nowhere else I could see him going.
A 1 year deal. What was Kyle Busch's other options?
Right.
At 40 years old, sitting on, I think, 70, maybe 70-plus race winless streak. Not saying it's because of Kyle Busch. And then, honestly, what's Richard Childress Racing's options as well? So when you look at Hendrick Motorsports and William Byron doing a 4-year extension, that's kind of a no-brainer for both of those, William and the organization. But when you see the 1 year deal for Richard Childress Racing and Kyle, really a no-brainer for them as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, Austin said it. He's got 1 more year left, right? So I think you might see, at the end of next year.
There's a reason they've convinced Austin Hill to keep driving that 21 Xfinity Series car.
Yeah, exactly. I think you're going to see probably at the end of 2026 RCR revamp.
Yeah.
And they've got the way it looks.
Yeah,
right?
They got decent speed. I see Austin was, when I looked, he was just outside the top 10 a handful of times. Kyle was decent till they crashed.
They're gaining, but to our point a while ago, a little bit is so. Yeah. It's like turning a cruise ship.
Yeah. The double.
Yeah, I was going to say other Kyle news. Kind of mediocre for him, I guess.
Kyle had I mean, it's unfortunate weather. This kid can't catch a break with
I
this
know.
race in the weather because I think he was going to have to leave anyway, right? I mean, he wasn't going to be able to finish the 500 if it had gone the distance.
They said that they were pulling, like he was going to have to be at Charlotte for intros regardless. But do you really think if it came down to it, like
I
if
thought
he
they
was,
had excused him.
Yeah, they
he got
excused
excused him, I
from
think, from the
everything.
drivers' meeting and intros, I think.
Yeah.
I thought I had
Yeah.
seen something where Jeff said
It was
like,
going to get to a point
regardless.
where the old helicopter was going to have to land on the front stretch like it did with Stewart
Yeah,
that one
one
year.
year, yeah.
No doubt.
And just unfortunate.
I was just going to say, if it really came down to it and he was leading or like it was looking really good at the end of the 500, do you really think they would have made him leave if he had enough to spare?
Well, I think that he's going to have to be at Charlotte for
Yeah.
the start of the
He
race.
wasn't going to throw those playoff points in
No.
the trash and whatever he may accumulate over the next 13 weeks. But I honestly, this is not to take anything away from John Andretti that did it in 94, Tony that did it with some success, Robbie Gordon, most recently Kurt Busch. I just think it's harder to do it now. Those Indy cars are not driving well. Look at the cars that wrecked in practice. Kyle Larson wrecked twice. And then let's face it, this Gen 7 car is no piece of cake to drive. Just ask Kyle Busch.
Yeah.
So I just think it's harder and harder to do what he's trying to do, regardless of the logistics of how tight the time frame is.
As a crew chief and Tommy as an owner, would you want your driver to be trying to accomplish this on a yearly basis, or would you rather him be focused on the 600?
I mean, on the business model, right, with everything that was thrown at it, it's a home run, right, with McLaren and Hendrick and everything that they're doing. But my thought process is touching on Larry's comments. Is his mind completely focused, right? Is he
There's no way
is
he was 100%
Right.
when he got back to Charlotte.
Well,
Yeah.
or in the Indy car, knowing that the rain, it's going to be late. What's going on? There's thoughts. I mean, you're going.
He's
200
human.
right?
He may be a
Exactly.
freak of nature, but he's human.
Exactly. They're going 225 miles an hour, and just one little thought process of something changing right in your mind. It's like we relate that to golf, right? We lose our minds on one shot.
I lose my mind on every golf
you're,
shot.
you aren't that. You struggle, but you par one hole, and the next hole you'll quadruple bogey. You don't even know how. You don't even know why. But it's just that the mind is so important, right? And when you're going that fast, right? And look, Kyle, he hit the wall leading, right? In the 5 car, he hit the wall leading, and he spun out leading. I mean, it
showed.
So it's not unusual for him to get into the wall. He'll do that. That's
no, but I mean,
But yeah, I just, he's a human being, and no matter how well prepared, there's no way when he cranked that engine in the Coke 600 he was 100%. There's just not possible, I don't think.
I think like it's hard. It's a lot harder than it used to be.
One more thing for the 600 before we get on the spot on, spot off. Do you think it hurts that the 600 is 4 equal distance stages now? It's basically 400 lap stages. I mean, it is 400 lap stages. Do you think that hurts the strategy side of it?
I don't know. I could probably sit here and make a case either way. As we said earlier, just awesome race from green flag to checkered flag. The things that went on with some strategy in those stages. If we go there next year and they shorten the first 3 and lengthen the fourth one, okay, that's fine. Do I see that as being a problem? I don't know what Tommy thinks, but I don't really see it.
Yeah, I mean, you only had 2 choices. You would split each stage in half, or you would run long, right? There's really no other thought process in it. I don't know. I'd rather see the last stage end, only 2 stages, right? I'd rather see 100, 200, everybody take a deep breath, right?
Yeah.
And let's go run 200 laps full of strategy, full of situations that might happen. Getting a deep breath, taking a deep breath every 100 laps is not a bad thing, especially for the drivers, right? But
Right.
I would think you would probably see a little bit different outcome. Look, you saw a little bit of the problem happen of the 3 car and the 11 car not getting enough fuel in it, right? Shooting for like that. Every second counted on that last stop, right? 1/10 of a second. The 24 and the 11, they left pretty equal on pit road, and the 24 dusted him leaving. I mean, he did a good job getting around that corner and getting up to speed down the backstretch.
Their pit stops was exactly the same time, but they could not get that second can engaged on that 11 car.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and that's the other thing that I want to say it bothers me, but I don't know why it bothers me. this race is worth more points than every other race because of that extra stage. I think there's an argument to be made there. You can eliminate that last stage, like you said, and now this race is the same as every other race with a longer run at the end. Because I don't know that I love that this one race is worth more points in the championship than any other one of the season.
Yeah.
I don't know why that. I mean, obviously it's a crown jewel, but I just don't think I love that. Hey everyone, when you're a homeowner, there are a lot of things to juggle. Let our great partner American Financing help you with finding ways to save and one less thing to juggle each month.
American Financing is licensed in all 50 states, and they are a family-owned mortgage lender that's been around for 25 years. They've helped hundreds of thousands of homeowners create meaningful savings.
If you've got any high-interest loans, American Financing can use your home's equity and roll that high-interest debt into one simple, affordable payment.
They're saving homeowners an average of $800 a month. Just think of what you could do with savings like that.
They offer real solutions to put you back in the driver's seat. It starts with one call, and it takes just 10 minutes to get started.
There are no upfront fees, and it doesn't cost anything to find out how much you could save. What are you waiting for? Plus, American Financing employs salary-based consultants, meaning they don't work off commission. They're just great people looking to help you save.
You may be able to close in as fast as 10 days, and you may be able to delay up to 2 mortgage payments by refinancing, creating more savings up front if you need it. But hey, just don't take our word for it. Check out their incredible reviews on Google.
Call today, 866-889-5022. That's 866-889-5022 or AmericanFinancing.net/door.
Call American Financing today to find out how customers are saving an average of $800 a month. 866-889-5022 or visit AmericanFinancing.net/door. NMLS 182334. NMLSConsumerAccess.org.
All right, ready for spot on, spot off?
Sure.
Topic 1, Justin Allgaier made a spur-of-the-moment decision to stay out on the final stop despite his team wanting him to come down pit road. Spot on, spot off, Tommy.
We should have Justin talk about
Is he here? You might
Is
be
he here today?
I mean, Freddie and I, Justin came up to us on Sunday in the Cup Garage and tried to explain his thought process. And every time he stopped, I said, "You should have pitted."
And I'm sure he would now if he had it to do
No,
over.
no.
If he had it to do
No,
over.
when he left, we shook our head. And I even said, "You should have pitted."
But you and I both know if we had do-overs, how many more races would we have won?
I understand that, but he's still was adamant of all his decisions that were going on in his head. If he came in, who else would have stayed out? If the cautions don't fall, how far ahead he would have he been? To the guys that took tires. He was thinking about. You can't.
And he was leading at lap 200 regulation.
Yeah,
it's the overtime that ended up getting the best of him.
But so you can't knock him for all this thought process of what was going in his head. But after every time he got done, I'm like, "You should have pitted."
and listen to his point. Like what he talked about was, if it stays green, I don't remember what there was. I don't 15, 20 laps to go at that point. If he gets away, he probably wins the race. But
I'm hearing the word "if" a lot.
Yeah, I know.
If he says if I pitted, I might not have won the race either.
Yeah, but by the time we're done wrecking and we go down, Byron restarts on his bumper with, by the way, the best car. They had a pit road penalty that set them back, but now he's the best car on his bumper with fresher tires. At that point, obviously it's a bad call, but who knows? Take a shot. But Larry, the question I had for you guys, and Tommy, you can jump on this too. Like, how frustrating is that for you sitting on the pit box if you make the call to pit and then you see your car drive by the front straightaway on the racetrack?
There was a man, Dale Earnhardt, one time I told him we needed to pit. He said, "We don't need to pit yet." And I said, "Well, evidently your calculator is working better in that car than mine is." And he also, at Michigan one time, I said 2 tires. He pulled in the pit box and said, "I ain't leaving till you give me 4. What choice did I have then?
And I mean, same thing for, how much... And it's hard for me to ask this, but how much control do you give the driver in those situations? Is there certain drivers where you don't have the wherewithal to make this decision on your own? You're listening to me, and then you have a guy like Dale Earnhardt where it's what are you going to do at that point?
Yeah, I mean, I've lost races making those calls and lost races. I mean, Luke in New Smyrna in February, right? I told him to pit, he didn't pit, right? We kind of set a spat. Doug Colby, in Oswego. Dominating the race, right? Caution comes out. I talked the whole time to pit. Didn't even give him a chance to say anything, right? we pitted. He's like, Tommy, I was only running 75%. I'm like, I was going to be fine. We got held back in 6th and never passed the car because, it's hard to pass in a place like Oswego. But, some cup races as well. I mean, I had probably a win or a second place at Indy at the Brickyard with Ward one year, and I pitted at the last. You just never know, man.
No.
And then when it goes the opposite way, right? You know what Pullman's thinking, right? Jim pit, right? Eddie said pit. You don't pit. Then you sit back and go, you're mad, but then you're like, man, I hope this works.
Yeah.
Oh, it's going to work. Let's make it work, right? What else are you going to do?
You're not going to fight about it.
It's over, right?
And let's face it, 2 wins, fair amount of playoff points. They got a bigger playbook they can work with.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got a huge point lead, and we talk about this. I mean, I feel like this happens. This scenario happens weekly whenever we have a crew chief on here. But it's just, how hard is that decision when you are the leader? Because especially in that situation where you're the leader, you're the best car at that point, you're dominating. Everybody knows they got to do something to beat you. How difficult is that decision to make?
It's not an easy position. You're in a box because, to your point, especially when you get late in a race and you've got a number of cars that's still on the lead lap, what are those back in the pack got to lose? I've always said if you follow the leader, you know what? You'll follow the leader. So why not try something different? So you better believe there's a lot of cars, especially in the back of the pack, mid-pack, watching what you do, and we're going to do something different. You stay out, we're going to pit. Because if we just stay out with you, we're probably just going to follow you around. Yeah. So it's a box. It's a great problem to have, but it can be a box.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, number 2, Joey Logano should have moved out of the way so the leaders could race it out to the finish. I think we probably all feel the same about this. But
I didn't really see anything wrong. I personally think that the 24 car made the mistake.
He did.
Right?
Yeah.
I think he's the one that made the mistake. The line he drove in that corner to create that problem he had that allowed Ross to get closer to him.
Yeah, I saw some comments from William afterwards, and I don't think Joey did anything wrong.
Absolutely not.
I saw.
Wait, hold on, Carson. Were you getting ready to say he did something wrong?
No, I was going to say
okay.
I think we all agree on the fact that he didn't.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure if you had a different opinion.
The only thing that I saw that was maybe a little troublesome for William was, and I thought Joey was giving him the wall in 1 and 2 every lap. That's what you really want. If you just don't want completely dirty air, and I felt like Joey had moved down a lane off the wall in 1 and 2. He was a little less predictable in 3 and 4. He would move up sometimes or that and run that lane down. And I think I saw one comment where William was a little bit unhappy about that. But Larry, I don't see anything he did wrong. He, like you said, Tommy, William went in there, kind of ran the middle for one time in 3 and 4, a little bit lower than he had been, and he just got loose, and that opened the door for Ross.
You don't want to get me started on this. I'll take you off the air, and I'll have to come back next week. Maybe it's because I'm old school. Maybe it's because of how long I've been here. Maybe it's because of the drivers I worked with, like Davey Alves, Dale Earnhardt, Ernie Irvin. I have zero tolerance when I hear a driver talk about another driver racing them hard. Really? He raced you hard? That's a shame. He shouldn't do that, should he? Joey Logano did nothing wrong. He was trying to stay on the lead lap because you know what? If the caution comes out, then he's able to come in and get 4 fresh tires, and he maybe can really get a much better finish than he had. Remember, Denny Hamlin was in the mix too because he came out right in front of William. He was right there with Joey Logano. With that said, Joey Logano did nothing wrong, but the next time somebody's out front of Joey Logano in the same situation, I don't want to hear Joey Logano complaining about it.
Yeah, for sure. And, 2 of the guys I thought that were raced with respect here, Ty Gibbs, I felt like, came out behind those guys on fresher rubber and really could have injected himself in the situation. And really, I felt like he did, and I felt like he kind of did a good job to lay off. You mentioned Denny Hamlin. He comes out, and he didn't stay completely out of the situation as much as Ty did. He got in there, but I felt like once they got side by side into one, he kind of lifted and let them guys race it out, where Ross just kind of moved up and ran William out of room. So I don't think anybody did anything wrong.
They did exactly what they tried to do.
It all played out to...
Yeah.
The irony, back it up to the Indy 500, those 2 cars running out front of Alex Palou, that was a beautiful thing for an Indy car. He was getting that draft every straightaway. It's not what you want in a Gen 7 Cup car.
Yeah, and you mentioned Indy, you mentioned, we were talking about Logano. I thought it was interesting. the Penske cars just didn't seem, the Cup cars just didn't seem to have the speed that they normally have this week. I noticed none of them in the top 10 in qualifying. That's the first time that's happened on a mile and a half this year. I don't know. Is this inconspicuous timing, you think?
Yeah, I don't know, Larry. What do you think? It's a coincidence?
So to me, there's several layers here, and it's not because Team Penske has not had speed at mile and a half. Joey Logano just won the Texas race a few weeks ago. Blaney topped the back-to-back top fives between Kansas and Texas. So they've had good speed at the mile and a half. I go back to practice on Saturday, and I know when qualifying was over with, Chris Buescher had a good run. Noah Gragson really was probably, from green flag to checkered, the best Ford all night long. But all the Fords seemed off just a little bit. Again, I know qualifying, Buescher got a good run in. At the end of the day, there were some Fords that finished up front. But I've got to believe in wake, in lieu of what went on up there at Indy, Roger Penske said, we don't need to make any more headlines with Team Penske. Just make sure you're right when we get to the Coke 600.
Yeah, and Tommy, I mean, I think you can speak to this. I don't know how much you go into it, but there's not many 100% legal cars on that grid when we roll off for that race.
I wouldn't say illegal.
No, I'm just saying.
I would say
There's some not legal.
No,
You didn't say illegal.
I didn't say illegal.
I mean, let's.
I said not 100% legal.
Yeah, well, I would say that in order to get that little bit, we have to do a little bit. I mean, we've always had to do a little bit to get that little bit. That's why there's a rule book, because we always do a little bit and create different paragraphs. I mean, the rule book has been made because of us, right? The crew chiefs and the engineers and all the drivers and doing things. And I think it hurt them. I think, I think what happened, RFK's penalty, during the week, affected some of the stuff that overall was happening. And I think, Indy hurt Penske. I mean, I just think, there was a situation there that everyone had to calm down a little bit. Everyone was probably getting a little bit further ahead than they needed to. And we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. Penske's always really good, but they're really, really, really good in the playoffs, right? They turn it on. Well, they had to detune this week. Yeah. Right? They probably had to detune.
And Blaney, in fashion of the way he races, he was starting to come to life. He wasn't going to go up there, I don't think, and contend for the win, but he was on the verge of cracking the top 10 when he got caught up in that wreck off turn 4.
Yep. And bless him, another week.
Poor Blaney. The fans
I don't even want to get on an airplane with that guy.
Or a toaster. All around a toaster.
Yeah, you missed out on signing the toaster at Fan Day, Tommy.
Oh. Yeah. Someone brought it?
Yeah. All right, moving along. Carson Hocevar will win a race this season. Spot on, spot off. Larry, I'll start with you.
I'm going to say spot on. But not just Hocevar, Spire as a whole is bringing speed. And when you've got speed, it'll eventually cash in. I know when you look at his finishes, I think second at Atlanta, got another top 10 somewhere. He was a player the other night. Who would have ever believed they would have had an engine failure? I know the Coke 600 can be hard on engines, but you just don't think about that anymore. Carson is starting more and more to find that line between when to, when not to. And I just believe when you bring that speed like they're bringing it, I think he's going to be good on the road courses. Look how close he came to winning Watkins Glen last year. So I think we got a lot of road course races coming up. But they're bringing speed every week.
Yeah, I seen a little bit different Hocevar the other night. I didn't, when he got to that position of third and fourth there a couple times, he stopped. Like he didn't wear his stuff out. I think he learned a lot from Kansas, to be honest with you, how he burned his stuff up in the long runs there. But I agree. It's spot on. I think he's going to win a race.
It's hard to bet against it. And you only, if you're going to bet on, if you're going to mention like just maybe the next first time winner, I think coming into the year, everybody would probably think Ty Gibbs would be at the top of that list. Right now, I think it's got to be Hocevar and Preece.
No question.
One of the two.
Yeah, Ryan Preece, he could easily go out and win a place like Loudon or Martinsville, I think. But, for me, I have to put Carson just a little bit ahead on the mile and a half. Like you said, Larry, just the raw speed they have. Qualifying, they've been qualifying well the last month and a half. Bristol, he was having a really good race up in the top 5 both stages. I think he had a pit road penalty or a problem at the end of that one. Faded a little bit. Just, again, really fast the other night. Engine trouble. I think that's his second blow motor of the year. there, flats late in races. I mean, he's been in position a couple times.
If it's happened, it's happened to him.
And he's still sitting. I think he's 20th in points, not that far out. So I mean, they're having for the bad luck they've had, they've still put themselves in position to get in the playoffs. And I wouldn't bet against him winning for any.
If he wins before the playoffs, he's going to create havoc in the playoffs.
He'll be playing with house money.
And you know what's going to happen? He's going to learn, right? He's going to learn so much more during those playoffs of what he has to do, and then next year he's going to create more havoc.
Well, yeah, like
in a good way. I mean, I don't mean in a bad way. I mean,
he gets that first win.
Yeah,
he'll be game on.
And we've been beating this drum on here about Carson for years on the podcast. You know, the kid's super, super talented. I mean, unbelievably talented. You know, go out and win a truck race, a couple weeks ago, and he's just like he had to figure out. He's got to figure out when not to and when to, because it's just, he sometimes takes risks that are unnecessary. And I think with these longer races, he's kind of seeing, all right, I can just kind of let this stuff come to me. I've got speed. I can get there when I get there. And that's a lot for any young driver, really. That's half the battle is just not taking yourself out of it. A lot of these guys, Danny, all these guys that rise to the top, Harvick wasn't a closer because he just found speed in the last 20 laps. It was just because he put himself in position to be there at the end, so it's just, I feel like once these guys figure it out, they don't give it back.
There was one point in a race, it was the 77 and the 1 battling, and I said to myself, "Oh, this is going to be fun." And I watched them for about 4 or 5 laps.
This could go one of two ways.
I mean, I watched them for about 4 or 5 laps. They didn't touch each other.
No.
Tommy, I think you're going to have some strong opinions on this one. You said you had a rant for us last week when it came to the Hall of Fame voting. Kurt Busch, Harry Gant, Ray Hendrick elected into the NASCAR Hall of Fame class of 2026. Spot on, spot off. Tommy.
Well, I mean, I think it's spot on, and to me, my opinion, it's spot off. Harry Gant, lock. Ray Hendrick, lock, right? 700 wins, modified guy, raced up and down the East Coast, the Northeast, Southeast, raced for money. Could have did Cup, but went other places that paid more money, right? So I was a little disappointed. Look, is Kurt Busch a Hall of Famer? Absolutely. Is he a Hall of Famer? Absolutely. Did I think he deserved to get in the first year? No. I think we had a chance, in my opinion, I'm going to keep saying in my opinion, we had a chance to earn some integrity within that group of people that voted, right? All this off-track activities that happened with Kurt and all the things that he did. When I spoke, I was like, I don't want my kids to think it's okay as long as you're winning races and winning championships to do everything else on the outside. I totally disagreed with that situation. And I think what pressured everybody was, you have a couple guys coming in the next 2 years that are first ballot Hall of Famers, right? And then where would Kurt be? Well, Kurt would have had to wait another couple, 2-3 years, right? I mean, everybody who has had off-field or activities happen, a lot of them aren't in the Hall of Fame of any sport, right? Because of those situations, right? Some of them are, some of them aren't. But I think we really had a chance right there to tell the younger audience that it's not okay. Right, it's not okay to do all those things and get in some trouble outside of the race car. That's just my opinion, and I think we missed a little bit.
If it's being one of the 50 greatest drivers that came out in 1998, 75 greatest drivers came out a couple of years ago. To me, that's about your numbers. That's the numbers you generated gripping that steering wheel. Hall of Fame, it's about numbers, but it's about contributions to the sport. Now, Kurt has been a good ambassador for NASCAR, but I think when you look at who he's going up against, who he went up against, that's probably the box that the committee was in, because the drivers. Now, in my book, everybody on that list is a Hall of Famer. But when you look at the drivers, there was no other driver on that list that was a champion. A Cup champion. There was no other driver on that list that had won a Daytona 500. So when you look at Kurt's numbers, a winner in all 3 series, a Cup champion, a Daytona 500 champion, he's won with about every organization. He's won in every make he's ever driven, including a Dodge. I don't know how you shoved anybody above him looking at those numbers. That's
no, and
where
that was the
tough.
argument, right? That is the argument, right? Because there was nobody, but there was a couple crew chiefs that had some championships.
You're right. You're right.
There was a couple guys that belong in the Hall of Fame that, Harry Hyde for sure,
Jake
right?
Elder, Harry Hyde, absolutely.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Jake had to go up against Ray in the different part of the
Yeah.
Hall of Fame. But there are some guys that have championships, right? That have been on the ballot for longer than Kurt, right? I mean, my biggest thing is, everyone's like, he had more wins. Yeah, but per start, Neil Bonnet had more wins per start than anybody on the list, and Harry was second, Kurt was third, right, per start. So it was like, okay, Neil Bonnet had the most poles per start, but if you look at the whole thing, Harry Hyde had the most wins per starts, right?
Harry Hyde is the reason we have Hendrick Motorsports.
Harry Hyde is the reason why most of us came into the sport, right? I mean, he's the guy that. The creator of a lot of things, and I think Ray Everham was the next one, right?
Yeah.
He came in and he changed the whole, brought what we do to a whole nother level, right, of thinking, and now it's a whole crazy level with the engineering that's involved. But it's just my opinion, right? I just think and I'm still strong about it. And I told Jack and Luke, I'm like, it's not okay, right? It's just. To me, it's just not okay for that. I don't know.
But to Tommy's point, the others nailed it. Ray Hendrick, when that red number 11, the flying 11 came over that hill into that racetrack, everybody would go, uh-oh, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
We're in trouble tonight, because you knew he was going to be a man to reckon with. As Tommy said, over 700 wins between sportsman and modified. There's tons of drivers don't even have 700 starts. He had over 700 wins. And Harry Gann, I know he never won a championship. He never won the Daytona 500. But when you would go to tracks like Charlotte, Darlington, Rockingham, woe be unto you, knew he was going to be the man to beat. And one other guy that we're going to celebrate, Humpy Wheeler, the Landmark Award. Humpy Wheeler, he was the first promoter, in my book, that said, we have to give the fans more than just racing on a racetrack. We got to give them other things outside of that for the kids they bring. Hell, he used to set a boxing ring up there at the bottom of the front stretch, because we'd have that lull between practice and qualifying, so they'd have boxing matches down there just to give the fans something else. He's one of the first promoters that truly embraced that and understood that.
I was amazed of the stories coming out of that room of everybody he helped in that room. Like, just
a lot of young drivers.
Yeah. I mean, I was like, that he was a lock, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I tell you who was, I think, is going to be a lock probably next year. It will be Jeff Burton, for everything he does outside racing now, with the safety and the leader of the drivers, group for NASCAR, and, everything he does. He was, I left there thinking that it was going to be him and Harry and Ray. I was hoping, or Harry Hyde. Obviously, I voted for Harry Hyde, and I voted for Harry Gant, and voted for Ray and Humpy. But it was a very interesting day.
Let me ask you guys this, because you guys are involved with the process. Would you prefer to see them go to more of a MLB style where you get more votes, maybe the ballot's a little bit bigger? Because if you're not familiar, MLB, I think, has 20 names on the ballot, usually somewhere in that range. I think you get to vote for up to 10 guys. But it's based on percentage. If you get a percentage of the vote in the room, you're in. Because you talk about it, I think you guys can all agree, everybody that's on this ballot is going in the Hall of Fame at some point.
Sooner or later.
But, now these guys are getting stuck having to wait because they're getting jumped in line. Harvick's coming up. Harvick's going to, Neil Bonnet might be a guy that, you talk about Jeff Burton being a lock. You talk about Neil Bonnet. You talk about these guys, everybody's a lock, but now you're having to get stuck on the ballot for years because we're only taking in 2 in the modern era at the time and 1 of the pioneer group. Would you rather see it go to something like if you get 75% of the vote in the room,
Not a
you're
set
in.
number
Not
of
a
people.
set number of people.
Which I think the way most of them are.
yeah.
I think that's the way even the NFL is.
Yeah, NFL is, I think is 5 is the max, and it was a
There's
minimum
a
of
max,
3.
but it
Yeah.
could be 2.
Yeah.
It could be 3.
So,
yeah.
I think as long as you have somebody, but I would love to see, because there's guys that are going to be stuck on this ballot just for years for no reason because we're limiting the amount of people we put in when they're more than deserving of being in. Yeah. So I feel like you can easily up to where everybody gets, you can vote for 5 people instead of 2. And now, all right, well, now you can move the vote around. They still got to get a majority of the room. You still gotta win over the 3/4 of the room. But you're gonna get in when you deserve to versus being stuck waiting in line because guys are retiring at a certain year and they're kind of jumping the line. So I would just love to see that at least discussed.
Hey, it's Dale Jr. Did you know that we've got brand new merch from our Stars, Stripes, and Beers collection available now? We've got tanks, tees, beach towels, and more just in time for summer. Check it all out at shop.dirtymomedia.com.
Anything? I mean, I know you've got to leave us here shortly, but anything got you fired up before you get the hell out of here?
No, the only thing that's got me fired up is that I have to leave and I have to miss Reaction Theater.
Yeah.
Sad about it. But no, I mean, what do you have to be fired up about on Memorial Day weekend except
The weather.
freedom and freedom? I mean, no, I had a great weekend. The weather, I was sad I wasn't on the lake yesterday, but no, all in all, chill vibes this weekend. Nothing got up under my skin.
Well, who's going to do all this other stuff you're supposed to
Andrew.
on these
I
pages?
guess you're going to have to learn how to read today, Tommy.
I brought my
can jump
glasses.
in. We can ship it over to Andrew.
What page?
What
We're on the
page we
last
on?
page. Oh, can I give you guys my pick?
Oh, yeah, we need your pick.
You need my pick
Are you
before
first?
we leave. No, Tom.
We'll just agree not to pick your pick, I guess.
Or I can text Andrew
No, we'll
my
let
pick.
you. We'll let you. You're not doing very good, so we'll let you.
Shut up. We're all tied. What do you mean?
You haven't won since Homestead.
You could go first this week.
Where are we going?
Still Nashville.
I haven't asked you that yet.
Yeah, maybe Kansas, according to Andrew.
Kansas. Oh, God. I don't know. I'm just going to random it here.
I thought that's what you do every week.
I do. I do.
I didn't realize you were putting a lot of analytics
You know
into
what?
this.
Let's just
the
pick.
biggest red flag is you didn't know where we're going.
Well, listen. I know I'm going to Langley this weekend. That's what I know. I'm going to just go out on a limb here and pick Carson Hocevar.
Wow, she just laid it down.
She's like, talk about the guy winning, and we're gonna.
Yeah,
we're
he's
gonna
doing
go
all right,
in.
so we'll take
right,
that.
We'll get to our picks
Yeah.
at
Sorry.
that point in the show.
Andrew, you can remind everybody when we get to that
I
point.
will. That was a bad pick, though, because he finished 26 at
That
Kansas.
don't.
Well, I don't give a Where'd he finish in the Coke 600 last year?
Huh?
Where'd he finish in the Coke 600 last year?
No, I'm just telling
And he
you
about ran
Kansas
third,
stats.
so I don't want to hear it. We're not going to Kansas. We're going to Nashville. Didn't she hear? All right, I'll miss you guys.
See, I
Bye.
knew we could get you fired up before you got
Where's
out
the
of
other
here.
producer?
Where's Alex?
He's up above.
She
me.
just
up
like
a-
leaves in the middle of the
Well,
show.
this is not usual.
She's got issues she has to take care of.
No, we're not telling anybody where you're going until you leave.
We're gonna make fun of you.
We'll make it the title.
All right, see you later. All right, well, now that we kick Carson out of the room,
Yeah.
finally.
I've never seen a door that you have to actually have a badge to get out.
Yeah. It's just, we don't. Sometimes we got to trap people in here. They realize they made a mistake when they get in here and they try to get out. And we can't let that happen. But Andrew, I guess take us to Reaction Theater now that Carson's abandoned us.
Hey guys, this is Toaster Man here from JRM
Toaster
Fan
Man.
Day. I just got to say, I immediately plugged the toaster in right after the race. Thank you for signing it, but it's all over. Go 12.
Go 12. The signatures are already wiped off of it from the bathwater. Poor guy.
It's all over.
Well, Kyle Larson, you impressed me today. I did not think it was possible to crash 5 times trying to do the double. Tommy, I would hate this guy. He is single-handedly keeping tow truck drivers in business.
Tow truck
Yeah.
driver.
Why are these people so angry?
This is our fan base.
Yeah, when their drivers aren't doing well, they get hot.
Wow.
But I think we're the only place they can vent to.
Do we have more Larson calls?
Yes,
Okay,
one
yeah.
more.
You know, most guys have penis enlargement surgeries like Freddie. I think Larson needs a penis reduction surgery so he won't step on himself no more.
These are the calls you get on Sirius? Or?
Maybe not quite to this level.
Yeah.
With most of your callers, Would I be probably on base if I said adult beverages are involved?
Yeah, this-
Oh,
yeah,
these
this-
are late at night.
A lot of times these are post race,
Very lonely people
2
drinking.
o'clock in the morning. I would imagine.
Yeah.
It's amazing you picked
just
up
a
on
wild
that.
guess. Just a wild
You're
guess.
so perceptive.
Larry, what you don't see is they call back multiple times. Too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Every 2 beers, it's another call.
It is.
I'm watching this JRM fan show, and I'm wondering, like, who are these people? Looks like some hustler from the 1970s, a really pissed off aunt, one of those discount Santa Clauses from the mall. Keep waiting on some kid to sit on Freddy's lap and get covered in belly sweat.
I am lost.
So this was Thursday. We did the fan show, and Jordan Bianchi.
On the stage.
Yeah.
Okay.
He kind of dresses to the nines at all the time. So he was.
I don't think he. Wait a second.
Well, he
looks like he come out of Goodwill. All right, he does not dress to the nines.
Hey, listen, he's got this style.
He
bud.
dresses just like our buddy does from Delaware.
Todd.
Todd. He dresses. He reminds me of just like Todd.
But so Jordan had a couple buttons undone for some reason. Must have been hot.
Goodwill. The buttons broke.
And I could not have picked the worst position to sit in. I looked like the hunchback of Notre Dame that was 400 pounds. So I understand the Santa Claus comments by all means. And I listen. Those are the calls we like. Those are the ones that
Sound
we
like
get
that
a
guy
good
really enjoyed the show,
Yeah,
though.
at least he was paying attention.
I say it all the time. If you're complaining about me, at least you're watching or listening.
Yeah.
I did just recently see Bubba Wallace was on Sesame Street. Now, I wasn't quite sure if the guy next to him in red was Elmo or was it Freddie Kraft. I don't know, but I definitely know the guy in the garbage can next to Bubba was Tommy Baldwin.
I'm glad I'm just a guest.
Yeah.
My name's not being associated with any of this.
We usually ask for some calls.
Next week.
You got
okay.
you got lucky this week so far.
Who's the Cookie Monsters in the garbage?
No, it's
Who's in the garbage?
Oscar the Grouch.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
I don't know.
believe it or not. Bubba posted a picture of it, and it's like Bubba look. They both come out of a garbage can. They're looking at each other. I told him, I said, that's like looking in a mirror for you. That's half the race I'm dealing with, that guy. But yeah. Anyway. Yeah, but I got a good kick. I said, Bubba's finally going to learn to count to 5 today on Sesame Street. So,
Help him with the choose cone.
yeah, no kidding.
Somebody feed Freddy. Someone get him some Kraft mac and cheese. What's going on the track? Somebody get old Freddy a snack. Forget all the guys that are doing the driving. Freddy's blood sugar's in danger of diving. Somebody feed Freddy.
God put a lot of thought into that.
Yeah,
A
we've
lot of
got some
thought.
talented listeners. That's probably stemming from the mid-race break there. They asked Bubba. I guess Bubba had a snack ready to go or something like that. So like, Bubba, you want a snack in there? He said, yeah, I'll take a snack. And I said, yeah, if Garrett's not busy, he can run one up here too while he's at it. That's a long race, man. It's.
Did you have snacks up there?
I didn't have any snacks up
We
there.
got the
Waters.
snack guy.
Yeah, we do have Ken, our friend Ken, the spotter's best friend, we call him. He comes up there with a bag. I don't know if you've met Ken. You've probably seen him around a bunch. But he kind of hangs out on the roof with us every week and brings a big bag of peanuts and pretzels,
Malted milk balls.
malted milk balls, and all
He
kinds
needs
of
to bring
stuff.
healthier foods up there.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you've seen the spotter corps recently, but we're not exactly pictures of physical peak performance.
Hey, man, we're here at the Tim Ducker Show. He is out here playing all the hits. I think the only person that might have more hits than him is probably that old 5-car, old Chris Wright. But come on.
I wonder if he ran into Carson while he was out
He
there.
probably did. If I had to
Did
guess,
Chris Wright getting another wreck?
Chris Wright was the first caution Saturday, if I remember correctly. Oh man, Chris Wright. It's just, I don't know. I'm going to be nice.
I don't condemn anybody for chasing their dream, but I put a little bit of this on NASCAR, and I talked to Justin Allgaier. I think they gotta do the eye tests. What is this driver? I'm not going to say he, whether it's a he or she. What is this driver doing? Are they out of their league in what they're trying to do here? And I think we definitely saw a case of that Texas Motor Speedway.
Eye reflex, reflexes.
Well, just saying, like they're saying
natural ability.
the NASCAR test.
There's a lot of things that have to go in with that guy.
Well, it's just, but to Larry's point, a lot of these guys and girls are being set up to fail at times because they're being put in cars that they're not ready to compete in, or they shouldn't be on the track with the other people that are in that series.
I've always said, when you're on an airplane and there's a little kid kicking the back of your seat, whose fault is it? Yeah. Is it the kid, or you turn around and give that parent a stare down?
Listen, we saw this. I don't want to drag this out too long, Andrew, but everybody's favorite guy in the world this week for this year is Cletus McFarland, and so Zippy leaves him out on the racetrack for his first green flag restart in an unrestricted car to be on the front row, and he ends up wrecking half the field. Do I think Cletus did anything egregiously wrong? No, he made a mistake that what that number of guys have made in the sport. But everybody wanted to give him a pass because we all love him because he does millions of views on YouTube and he's a funny guy. He gives funny interviews. But if that was Catherine Legg on the outside of the front row and she made that mistake with similar oval track experience, she'd be getting roasted on the internet because she doesn't belong there. But it's the same thing. You got to call a spade, and Cletus is probably a little over his head running an ARCA car right now. But where else are you going to go to learn on that stage where he's great for the sport. He's putting a lot of eyes on our sport. But I just hope we don't get too far in front of our skis where we're putting him in a position where he makes a mistake and wipes out a lot of cars and costs people a lot of money.
That is the end of Reaction Theater. Right. To leave an audio message 24/7, call our number 704-802-9572. And we will play the best ones. And if you have a song, you can text that phone number because the audio quality is a little bit better. So I appreciate the songs this week.
Yeah. And are we getting text, Andrew? Maybe we still. I know we started.
Some people will text,
bit.
but I mean, yeah, we do get texts every now and then.
That was better this week. We're getting better.
Yeah. Thank you, fans.
That was good, guys. Keep it up, guys and gals. Hopefully, one of these guys wins one of these days, and we get some positive reinforcement. We got some people on some watch lists.
The toaster. Still trying to wrap my arms around that.
None of Rowdy's fans are getting pregnant.
Oh yeah, Rowdy Nation. They're in hard times as well.
Did he spin out again?
He did.
Yeah.
Well, it's time for Ask DBC. Send your questions in on X each week using hashtag AskDBC. The first one's from Sandy. Who should do the double next?
I don't know. Larson is always the guy that you're going to look at. Kyle Busch sounds like he wants to do it. I don't know if at this point in his career if he's still interested in doing it. Yeah, I don't know.
Nobody jumps off the page at me. Yeah.
I mean, obviously all those fans would, Chase or for Ryan Blaney, but I don't really see. I see them guys. Larson was the one that you kind of saw coming. You could see that guy that he was eventually going to want to do this. I don't really see that guy.
Bell, maybe Christopher Bell.
Yeah, he would make a lot of sense.
A little bit of background like Larson. So.
I think he'd rather be in a sprint car than an Indy car.
Well, they both would, I'm sure. Yeah. But yeah, I agree. If there's going to be somebody on the list, it'd probably be Bell.
Anyone from the IndyCar side, maybe?
That's interesting. McLaughlin, maybe. I know he's got a bunch of buddies in the Cup Series. But I think those guys, that's their whole season.
Hard to get out of those Corvettes and climbing these minivans.
Yeah.
I mean, when you cleared the Andretti and the Foyt era and moved it ahead like to the modern era, there's only been one that came close to success, Juan Pablo Montoya. Just the rest of them, it's been a struggle bus. Not that many of them has come, but it's not bared a lot of fruit.
Yeah,
Tony Stewart.
Tony Stewart, yeah.
Stewart, yeah, absolutely.
But for them guys, that's their season. You know what I mean? I feel like that race is almost more important than their champion at the end of the year. They put a month of work into that one race.
They have a banquet for it.
Yeah. And I just, I can't ever see one of them guys just saying, all right, I'm going to start taking away from my Indy 500 prep to go run this one-off Cup race.
I think in the IndyCar series, the driver that wins the Indy 500 gets way more notoriety than the driver that wins the championship.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
This next question is coming from Jake Wilson. It's for Larry. How rejuvenating was it this season to be back at the track for Fox?
There's no way to quantify what it meant for me to be back to the track. Not just to be back at the track, but to be able to do my job and do it the way I do it. spending time in that garage area, and I was in there every single day, basically from the time it opened until I had to leave to go do my job with the broadcast. I have no idea how I did this job the last 5 years and not being boots on the ground at the racetrack. Help of a lot of people. I'd even call old Tommy every once in a while. A lot of people would let me lean on them, knowing what I was trying to do. Was it nice for 5 years going off the air in the Charlotte studio and then 40 minutes later being home? Absolutely. I didn't have to worry about flights and rental cars and all that other stuff. But there is no question. It's so much better, and I felt like I was able to do a better job being back at that track.
Yeah, and listen, I don't want to turn. I completely agree with you. I think Jamie was on here, not that long ago, talking about the studio is beneficial for them, but there's nothing that you can. Jamie McMurray, is getting to go in the hauler and talk to the crew chiefs before
Absolutely.
the races and talk to the drivers and being there in person. But we did, and I don't want to turn this into any kind of Fox versus Prime debate because that's not necessary, and it's hard for me and Tommy to speak to it because we didn't watch the broadcast on Prime. I don't know if you did or if you were.
I did. I watched the whole thing, and they did a phenomenal job. And already, as expected, I'm seeing people compare the Fox broadcast to the Prime. And to me, it's comparing apples to oranges. I'm sorry. I mean, I can't completely speak for Fox, but we're never going to have a broadcast where basically we do an hour pre-race, an hour post-race, and the majority of the commercials are side by side. We're network television. You're just comparing an apple. It's not even an apple to an orange. It's an apple to a banana.
Yeah.
I mean, what they did Sunday night was a phenomenal broadcast. I feel like for 25 years we've done great broadcasts. They're just never going to be the same. And if anybody expects it, you're probably going to be disappointed.
Yeah, and to your point, and we haven't seen this in years, and this is what we were talking about when everybody was complaining about, oh my God, we're going to Prime. This is terrible. I got to pay for this, which they did a good job of offering a free trial for the basically the duration of their races. This is what you can get though with the streaming service. They're not locked into TV windows. They can have that had to be a 7-hour window of television the other night.
They have no limits.
They have no limits. I got home and the race had ended. I got home and I made food. I can't remember what I did, but I turned the race on. It had to be almost an hour after the race ended, and I see Dale and them on TV cheersing. And there's things that they're going to do different, and the one question I did want to ask you, like if you're sitting at home watching that, is there stuff that you would make note of, that you see that you like better or you don't like as much even that, you go, okay, well, maybe this is something we need to bring up and talk about, maybe we can make all of us better.
I wished, and I've said this in meetings, I wish we had, if we've got a window, and I'm talking about when I say we, Fox and FS1, if we've got a window, I'd rather see us do more post-race than pre-race.
Absolutely.
We do a lot of pre-race. We do very little post-race. If we could just shift that, and I realize there's broadcast windows and times and all that, because that's what I enjoyed Sunday night was Justin Marks coming to that stage and talking to Danielle and those guys. Even William Byron, that finished second, being able to hear his emotions over dominating a race and finishing second, Ross Chastain, that's what intrigued me. So if I had one wish, if we have to stay in that window, let's do less pre-race and let's do more pre-race.
Post-race.
More post-race. And another bandwagon that I've been on for years, not just Fox, but everybody, is NFL during the fall. At 103, that football is going in that air. You may not know what game you're going to be watching, but that football is going in the air. We promote, let's just say, a 3:30 start. We don't wave a flipping green flag until 3:50 or 3:55. I'm all about singing, flying, and praying, but let's do that before we come on the air.
Yeah.
If we're promoting a 3:30 green flag, by gosh, not long after 3:30, let's throw that green flag.
I agree. And Tommy, Andrew, did you watch at home or were you at the track?
I was at the track.
Okay, good. Good. I guess we're not going to get your opinion on it. I just say.
I saw bits and
What
pieces
about
from
the other
media
producer's
center.
opinion?
Evan's got. You got a mic in there? I don't know. I don't. They only got nobody's got a
he
mic.
said he was
Evan was
drinking.
at the
Was that
track.
you? Oh, you were drinking.
Evan was drunk.
He said he was. Oh, good or drinking?
It's like I don't know. I don't want to. Again, it was from what I could tell, going back and watching some of it, it was a really good broadcast. I like some of the camera angles being zoomed back a little bit more and
Yes.
showing some of the speed. They're talking about how great the booth was. Of course, they're great. It's Dale and Letarte. They've been friends forever. They work together on the track, now off the track. They've been doing this forever, so they're going to have great chemistry. There's nothing that I was not expecting. It wasn't like I was blown away by, Adam Alexander, great play-by-play guy. Everything was as expected, I think, for me. And, obviously everybody, you get the internet warriors where you're never going to make everybody happy. So I don't want to turn it into a comparison. We'll be happy with what we got with Prime, and maybe they can, raise the ships and raise the tide for everybody else.
I can promise you, when we transition from Prime to Turner, those broadcasts going to be different.
Yeah.
And it's the same booth. It's still Adam, Dale, and Steve, but that's going to be different. And I'm pretty excited.
Thinking.
Absolutely. And it's going to be different from Fox. But I am pretty excited about being a part of the TNT broadcast. It's already been put out there. But we're going to try something that's not been done before in NASCAR. Jeff Burton and I are going to be in the TNT studios in downtown Atlanta all 5 weeks. And a lot like the Manning Altcast, we're going to be doing an Altcast for the NASCAR races. We'll be on simultaneously with the TNT broadcast of the race, but we're going to be doing the Altcast. We'll actually be on True TV. We're going to bring in guests, and it's not going to be necessarily guests that's NASCAR related. We want them to be knowledgeable. We're going to probably bring in Cletus McFarland.
Yeah.
We're going to probably bring in the comedian John Chris. We're going to probably bring in Chipper Jones, who's had this little deal with Joey Logano. So we're going to have some fun with it.
Yeah, and that's all you can hope for. It's like people are rooting for one side to fail. You know what I mean? It's like, just let's work together, and we can hopefully make it all better.
Well, I've learned 25 years. The same people that hate Fox, when NBC comes, they hate NBC.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Burger King, McDonald's, right?
Yeah.
Wendy's. They're all a little bit different, right?
Absolutely.
All right, well, it is time for the Show Hall of Fame. Each week, we nominate somebody, and the fans will vote on who gets inducted. Last week, Michael Waltrip throwing and dropping the yellow flag.
Do you think that was on purpose?
You just never know with Michael.
And that was the most people at Charlotte this past weekend. The fans, they come up to me. That's the only thing they want. Really,
I think they sold that flag at the Speedway
did.
Children's Charity Gala for a lot of money.
Yeah, they did. I heard Michael. I saw a video. Caitlin, who works here, had it out front. A video. They saw. I think Michael signed it, and they
You
auctioned
just
it
don't
off.
know with Michael. Michael is the only guy I know that can be legal in the HOV lane by himself, and again, be legal because there's so much going on there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Show. Unfortunately, I love this guy to death. Scott McLaughlin's probably got to get. Just this show is just basically something crazy you saw throughout the weekend. Poor McLaughlin wrecking, warming up his tires. I feel so bad for that guy because you can only imagine you put so much time and effort into this race and it's over before it started.
We had wrecked in practice qualifying weekend too,
Yeah,
right?
yep.
So
Got
yeah,
upside
just
down, I think, or almost
just
upside
more
down.
added to the whole Penske deal.
Yeah, what a week for them guys. Cletus probably has to be mentioned. I don't know. What else do you think for anything?
How about the fan that stole Chastain's hat?
The guy, yeah. Did you see this video?
Yeah,
I don't know if you
I just
saw.
heard about that.
Ross is driving to victory lane, and Justin, I think, ran out to him. Right? I think it was Justin.
I think so.
That gets in the window, and they're having a moment. Somebody's got the audio from it, and they're having, thank God, yeah, hell yeah, whatever. And then all of a sudden, you can see a fan like behind Justin. And then you can't see him in the in-car, obviously. You can just hear, he must just have took Ross's hat and walked off with it because you hear Ross like, hey, give me that hat back.
But I think security got a hold of him and his fun night turned bad.
Yeah. Tommy, you had a show this weekend.
Yeah. A little bit.
Tommy has one every
He
weekend.
has one every day, usually.
No, I mean, turned out to be a great race at the end, but Franklin County, the Smart Tour race there this past weekend, and they got a wreck happened, and a guy oiled the track, and they had 2 bags of Speedy Dry only
for the night,
and those 2 bags were soaking wet. So they made the decision to go get the tractor to go pull some dirt out of the back behind the grandstands and put it on the track.
Dirt on oil.
Yeah, yep, dirt on oil. So there was 9 laps left in the race. Was some good racing going on up until that point, for sure. And we all took a vote to continue or not. But a couple of us brought up a good idea to run the mini stock race. Line us up, back up on.
Let them be the lab rats.
And it was one of the
Mini
best.
stock guys, like what the hell?
And if you can go back to the replay on Flow racing, that race was one of the best races you'll ever see. The show that those guys put on was a good show. But the modifieds got back on the track, and it was Ryan Newman and Luke photo finish.
Oh, wow.
.014 finish, and Newman just got Luke. Luke got underneath them going into 3 and 4, finally caught him, and it was a great finish. Though.
Yeah, but that was something I've never seen before. Running. I've heard of people running at a speed drive. I've never heard of them having 2 bags.
Yeah,
for
2
the end of
bags.
the
That
night.
was wet.
That was wet. Yeah, it's less effective that way.
And credit to those folks. It was new management, ownership. I don't know if it's ownership or management, but they are cleaning it. They're starting to clean. Believe it or not, I don't know if you guys ever been to Franklin County, but they are starting to clean
That's
that
where
place up.
Brandon won his first UARA late model race.
Yeah, great fast racetrack. I mean,
Yeah, well, like Tommy said, you can go back and watch it on Flow, flowsports.link/DBC1 if you don't already have a subscription there. Another one I saw, I don't know, we'd have to pull this up. Somebody sent it to me. I don't remember what track it was at. I saw it on Racing America, I think, but it was there was a tire laying on the front straightaway at like a vintage race, and the guy just never saw it. Looked like Priest running over the box last week. Just drove straight over the middle of it, almost flipped over.
where's our guy that brings up all these things? Where'd he go?
We're short-staffed. We run these guys to death this week.
Where is everybody?
It's a holiday week.
It's
Do they all have to go where Carson went?
They've had a long day. They've had a long day with Dale and now us, so we're going to give them a break this weekend. But this week...
Cletus, you're referring to, he started that big Arco wreck, right?
Cletus's restart mishap. I don't know what the other one I said was. McLaughlin wrecking.
Chastain's hat,
and then Tommy's lack of speedy dry.
Well, that's a good list.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Let's move on to DBC Picks.
DBC
Tommy, you
Picks.
won
Yeah, baby.
last week. Byron, who finished second. Carson picked Carson, Hocevar. But Freddie, you will be the
And
next
Larry,
pick.
you're involved here.
Oh, I picked 2.
Yeah.
Look at your list.
I got to go first or second, whatever.
So the ones that are highlighted here, you're the guest. The ones that are highlighted, you can't pick.
I can't pick the ones that are highlighted.
The ones
No,
that
you
are-
can't pick the ones that are grayed out.
Yeah,
grayed out.
Okay. And the reasoning behind that is
Just everybody
You get one pick.
You can only
One-
pick everybody one time for
Oh.
the year. So we're the guest every week picks, and the guests are kicking our ass right now, which is a little tough. All right, where are we going?
Nashville.
Vegas. Kansas. We're still going to Kansas.
That's right.
I will take. I need to figure something out here.
You know, I'm a little suspicious of this whole deal. Martin Truex Jr.'s on my list.
And
He's on all of our lists.
He's been picked on your list already.
Evidently, he must have had to get picked for Daytona,
Yeah,
right?
Blame Tim's
Blaney,
for that.
Blaney picked him at Daytona.
Okay.
You can also pick Castro Neves if you're interested.
I picked Kurt Busch one race.
I need to figure some stuff out here. I'm gonna go with Chase Briscoe this week. I don't really know why. I just feeling it. They feel like they've been kind of showing some speed lately. Larry, you're up.
You know what? This does not say a whole lot about the IQ of the guest.
They're leading. They've got the most wins.
I have no idea how.
Oh, you mean the people?
We are
the
race
guests we've
number
had?
4. Yes, the guests that you have had in here,
And now you.
and now me, but it doesn't say a lot.
Somebody left him on the table.
I mean, yes, he's not highlighted. Kyle Larson. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
He's pretty good.
He's pretty good,
I have
yeah.
heard recently he's overrated though.
Yeah,
So-
overrated.
Wow. I can't believe no one's picked Larson.
Yeah, I mean, he is not highlighted.
Well, you gotta-
No, he's available.
You got to understand, a lot of the guests pick their own people. So Right. So
Okay.
Tommy, you are up.
It goes to show you what the ratings of your guests are.
I'll tell you what, Freddie. I'm going out on a limb this week. I'm going with Magic Mike, man.
Again this week. Another. So we're talking about Mike Kelly. What these guys are doing at the 47 car is unbelievable.
Above the playoff
He
cut
hit the
line?
wall. He run into the wall about 300 miles an hour, and he still finished 11th. I don't know what they got going on.
Yeah, I just hope we're only halfway through the regular season, and we know the way the winners are going right now that there's going to be several make these playoffs on point. I know we've got one more Daytona race, but I hope what Ricky will do for the next 13 weeks, take what that car will give you.
Oh, yeah.
If it's 12th, take 12th. If it's 8th, take 8th. Don't try to take 8th and go to 1st. Normally, the next thing you hear is your spotter say, "Are you okay? Will it crank?"
Drop the net.
yeah. Magic Mike. Pulled
They've been doing this all year where they don't even like some weeks
right
they
down
have
the middle.
Some
Right
weeks
down
they
the
have
middle.
speed, but then there's other weeks where they just figure it out. They just kind of stay in the fight. And the other night they were back there racing with us. I don't know, mid-20s. I felt like, and then I got home. I go, they finished 11th again. It's like
I said the same thing. I'm like, the some bitch was almost on fire. He's coming up pit road. The whole side was almost off, I thought. I'm like, Magic Mike taped her up, finished 11th.
Magic Mike.
Oh, Magic Mike. It's got a couple movies out if you want to talk about. But yeah, anyway, heading to what should we look forward to for Nashville, Larry?
Well, I've already talked to a few crew chiefs. Of course, we only go there once a year. They're putting the resin down in the second and the third groove, which they've kind of done that before. But you got to believe it's probably going to be the same cast of characters. Ross Chastain has won there before, and we know that he's got a little momentum right now. This is where
Why didn't you pick him then?
Because Larson was still available. Evidently, I'm a little smarter than all those other guests y'all brought
I don't
in
know.
here.
They've won 5 times.
Okay.
We'll see how you make out.
This is where Logano turned it around. But also remember, this is where we also set a record for overtime attempts at 5. This was a 400-mile race that lasted about as long as the Coke 600 did, just a little over 4 hours. So
Yeah, I forgot about
the other
that.
thing, night race, all 3 races are at night, which I think was a smart move. Joey Logano, I heard him say on SiriusXM NASCAR radio this week, 2 years ago, hottest race he's ever been in. But the thing about it, a lot like the weather we're having now, it's going to be unseasonably cool.
Yeah.
I think we're looking maybe in the mid-70s.
And we haven't had from what I recall, I feel like every race has been pretty hot there. I don't remember one that was, maybe the one that was at night might have been a little bit cooler. But I remember, I feel like every time we've been there, it's been pretty warm.
But I love going to tracks that we only go to once a year because I think that just creates a little bit of an unknown. Yeah, we can talk about who ran well there last year, but we know in Cup, a lot of water goes under the dam from one year to the next.
Yeah, a lot of things have changed.
The one thing before we did check out here, because I seen somebody asked me about it this morning, and there's a video that surfaced of the McLaughlin wreck, which you can cut this into the show part if you want, Andrew. There's a video of Larson driving by, and you hear somebody wrecked, and somebody say he's an idiot for wrecking, because obviously they're in a time crunch. They're trying to get the race going. Now this delays them a little bit. Just frustration on the radio. It was not Kyle that said it. So anybody that thinks that Kyle said that is wrong. And Kyle does flash a thumbs up on the way by. He could be very well asking Scotty if he's okay, because I know they know each other. He could be frustrated and maybe a sarcastic thumbs up, like "Thanks a lot, you're costing me time." But I don't think there's any malicious intent. So I seen a lot of hate for Larson over it. I don't think it's necessary. I think it was just kind of heat of the moment. They're trying to get the race started so they can attempt to double, and it's just unfortunate that it went down. But I don't think it was anything really malicious on anybody's part.
You had to believe, though. I agree, but you have to believe anxiety was starting to set in
already. Yeah.
That's what I mean.
It just had to be. I mean, the clock's ticking. You've got this 4:07 line in the sand. Race ended up. I looked at the minute Pelot crossed the start-finish line. I looked. It was 4:28. That's 2 hours before the green flag for the Coke 600. Even though it all became a moot point.
Yeah. Anyway, again, Tommy, what do you got going on this week? Modifieds, nothing?
Yeah, we got Seacock.
Oh, tour race.
A tour race Saturday. Then I'll be in Nashville on Sunday.
I was worried about you the other day because I saw something, a list, and I'm concerned it's going to cost you money.
What?
Luke's like 5 points out of the modified tour point lead or something.
And
like
leading
that.
the smart.
And leading the smart.
Yeah.
So I mean, how are we? I mean, don't be I mean, I don't know how far in the will I am, but I don't want you to blow my whole inheritance.
I know.
On this.
We'll see. We're gonna get through Seekonk and then Riverhead, and then probably make our decision.
Do you have? Is there a Smart and a Riverhead, a Smart and a Northern Tour conflict?
There's 3 conflicts, yeah, and I would say there was a possibility that Doug Colby will do those 3. So we'll still shoot for the Owners' Championship. But we'll see where we end up.
That's a good guy to come off the bench.
Yeah,
he's not bad.
No, he's not bad.
Pretty good sub.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for everybody coming out last week for Fan Day. We had a lot of fun here. Me and Carson were in the Cars Tour hauler signing toasters and slinging some T-shirts, and then got on stage with Jordan. Had some fun there. I'd say everybody, just a lot of fans in town this weekend. Got to see a bunch of them. Saw some at Big Al's. Saw some at Saeed's on Saturday.
You made the whole.
I was going to say
huh?
you make your rounds.
It was a late start on Sunday, so we were able to get out a little bit on Saturday night, and then again remember this weekend why we do what we do, and the freedoms of what everybody gave up to give us these freedoms. So Larry, again, thank you for coming by. I'm sure this won't be the last time we see you. Now that we got an open seat, hopefully we'll get to drag you back in here some more.
I've enjoyed it, but I do want to echo something you just touched on there, Freddie, is the fact that the reason that we could gather 350,000 plus in Indy, 100,000 plus in Charlotte, and not even think twice about it is because of the men and women that are currently serving, but the men and women that gave that ultimate sacrifice. I know I'm a little bit prejudiced, but nobody celebrates it. It's not really a celebrate, but nobody honors it and remembers more than NASCAR Charlotte Motor Speedway with the names above the windshield. Stopping the game in the middle of the race to come down for that moment of silence, nobody does it better.
Yeah, that's the one pre-race of the year we don't ever miss. That's one you get up on the roof early for to make sure you catch it. It gets chills every time you're up there. But again, thank you for everybody listening this week. Good to see everybody in Charlotte. We'll see, I'm sure, a bunch of you. I'll be bouncing around Nashville all weekend, so come say hi. You coming to the race this week? Just Sunday. All right. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. Again, Larry, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And we'll see you guys back here next week. Peace out.